Welcome to Pop Flashback. I'm your host, Rick Smalls. Tina Boucher is on assignment. Trapped in a whale, actually. Don't ask. But hey, today we're talking about little-known Sound of Music stories. Get ready for some seriously surprising facts about this classic movie. Okay, first up, let's talk about that iconic opening scene, where Julie Andrews is twirling on the mountaintop. Turns out, filming that scene was a lot more dangerous than it looks. They used a helicopter, and the downdraft from those rotor blades, well, it was so powerful it kept knocking her down. Can you imagine? Trying to stay graceful and sing with a helicopter blowing you around. Talk about dedication to her craft. I think it really adds another layer to that scene, knowing how much she went through to get it right. And speaking of Julie Andrews, remember that joyous scene where Maria and the kids are frolicking in the hills? Well, during filming, she tripped and fell flat on her face. But ever the professional, she just kept going like nothing happened. Director Robert Wise actually edited the fallout of the final cut. But it makes you wonder, what other little mishaps might be hidden in the movie that we never even noticed? Movie magic, right? Now, let's shift gears and talk about Christopher Plummer, our Captain von Trapp. He later admitted that he, wasn't exactly a fan of all the, let's say, saccharine moments in the film. In fact, he jokingly said he used alcohol to cope with filming some of the scenes, the ones he found a bit too sentimental. It's fascinating to think about his perspective, especially since Captain von Trapp starts out as this strict, emotionally distant figure, You have to wonder if Plummer's own feelings about the material seeped into his performance at all, even subconsciously. And speaking of 16 going on 17 and that romantic gazebo scene, turns out the actress, Charmian Carr, actually sprained her ankle while filming that sequence. She slipped on the wet floor, but she kept dancing. If you look closely, you can spot a slight limp in some of the shots. That's some serious commitment to the performance. It really makes you appreciate the lengths these actors went to for their art. Okay, now for a story that really makes you think about the weight of history, even on a movie set. The actors who played those, stern-looking Nazi soldiers. Well, they were actually Austrian extras, and many of them were really uncomfortable wearing the Nazi uniforms. Understandably so, given Austria's history with Nazi Germany. Some even refused to give the Nazi salute on camera, and the director had to really work to convince them to do it. It's a stark reminder that those events weren't just a story. They were a painful reality for many people. And here's one that might surprise the music lovers out there. You know how Captain von Trapp serenades the family with Edelweiss? Well, get this, Christopher Plummer couldn't actually play the guitar. They dubbed over his playing and used someone else's hands for those close-up shots. It just goes to show you the magic of filmmaking. You'd never know it wasn't him actually playing. Maybe that's why he seemed a little stiff during that scene. Who knows? Now let's talk about those adorable Von Trapp children. They always seemed so well-behaved. But apparently, they weren't too keen on the authentic Austrian food they were served on set. Can you blame them? I mean, who wouldn't prefer a good old-fashioned burger over traditional sausage and cabbage? Julie Andrews even joked that they had to bribe the kids with American snacks to keep their energy up. But this actually brings up an interesting point about the film's portrayal of Austrian culture. While they tried to make things authentic, they also had to make choices that would appeal to a wider audience. So it makes you wonder how much of what we see on screen is true to life versus what's been adapted for Hollywood. And speaking of adaptations, Maria's wedding dress. So elegant and timeless, right? Well, prepare to be shocked. It was actually pink. It appears white in the film because of clever lighting and color correction. This just shows how much work goes into creating the visuals we see on screen. It's all about manipulating light and color to create the desired effect. It really makes you think twice about everything you see in movies. And finally, remember that dramatic escape over the Alps at the end of the movie? Yeah, how about that? Completely made up. In reality, the Von Trapp family took a train to Italy with a legally obtained travel visa. If they'd actually hiked over the mountains like in the film, they would have ended up right back in Nazi-controlled territory. Not exactly a happy ending, so why change it? Well, Hollywood loves a good visual, and that image of the family escaping over the mountains is undeniably powerful. But it does make you wonder how much of the rest of the film was embellished for dramatic effect. It's a good reminder to take historical films with a grain of salt. I don't know you, but I'm already seeing the Sound of Music in a whole new light. And we're just getting started. We've got lots more behind-the-scenes secrets from this beloved musical to share after a quick break. Hangry.
Hangry.
Totally, and we're looking at their online shop today, and it's pretty wild. Got like everything you could think of, from t-shirts and sweatshirts to candles and stickers, and they've got all this stuff with this really fun food-themed kind of spin on it.
Yeah.
It's interesting how they've taken what's a pretty negative emotion and spun it to be something.
To be something good.
Yeah, like something relatable and fun.
And we're back. We're uncovering some more behind-the-scenes secrets from The Sound of Music. Okay, let's talk music for a second. You know that incredibly uplifting number, I Have Confidence? Well, guess what? It wasn't even in the original stage production. Yeah, Richard Rodgers wrote it specifically for the movie. The producers felt like Maria's introduction needed a little more punch, a little more oomph. And they were absolutely right. The song really perfectly captures Maria's spirit as she sets off on this new adventure. But let's get back to Julie Andrews for a moment. Not only was she a phenomenal actress and singer, but she also apparently played the role of, get this, on-set babysitter. Yeah, those kids could get a little restless during the long filming days, so Julie would keep them entertained with jokes, silly songs, and even pranks. Now, I can't verify this next bit, but rumor has it that she once mooned the kids off camera to make them laugh. I guess you got to do what you got to do to keep things light and fun when you're working with children, right? And here's a fact that might make you want to book a flight to Austria. That romantic gazebo, if it's still there. Well, sort of. The one used in the film was actually a larger replica, built on a Hollywood soundstage because the original gazebo in Salzburg was too small for filming. But the real gazebo is still a popular tourist destination. People love to visit and reenact that famous 16 going on 17 scene. It's fascinating how a film can be such a hit with different people around the world. Like, The Sound of Music was huge in America, of course, but it was even bigger in places like the UK, Australia, Japan even. In some countries, it played in theaters for years. Some even showed it continuously for a decade. Wild, right? It makes you think about what parts of the story clicked with different people, and how a story can become a global phenomenon. Okay, here's a fact for those of you who like to separate fact from fiction. You know how the real Maria von Trapp visited the set during filming? Well, it turns out she wasn't exactly thrilled with how they told her family's story. She thought the film made Captain von Trapp seem too, cold and distant, especially in the beginning. She said that in real life, he was always a warm and loving father. It's interesting to consider her perspective. I mean, after all, she lived it, right? Her memories might be different from what we see on screen. But of course, she loved Julie Andrews. She called her absolutely wonderful, and I think we can all agree with that.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today. Who knew The Sound of Music had so much going on behind those cheerful melodies? I hope you enjoyed this little peek behind the curtain. What surprised you the most about today's stories? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe to catch our next episode. See you next time.